Hello, my friends. This is Nick, also known as Social Cinema. Welcome to Fred Hampton Leftists Live. I appreciate everyone who just checked out JB show, JB Font. We're talking to my good friend Michael Tiavasa, aka the non-voting felon. They did a powerful show. So if you missed that, make sure you check that out. We upload every day, so I am very excited with the content that we're putting out there. We recently, I'm very salty that Jackie and RJ had the opportunity to talk to someone I look up to a lot, someone who teaches me a ton, who played a giant role in Radcliffe and myself, Professor Richard Wolf. I wish I had a chance to tell him how much I hated capitalism, but I think Jack and RJ did a good job at that. But for now, I have Ron Placone. He's gonna take his place as well. I can yell about capitalism with Ron for now. Welcome to Fred Hampton Lessons, Ron. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, man. I love what y'all are doing with the Fred Hampton Leftists, and I'm so stoked you're having me back. And I am no Richard Wolf. I can certainly I am no Richard Wolf, but we're gonna have a good time anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I definitely had to advise you on because most people who follow my content for a while knows that me having guests is actually really new. Like when I used to do my old show, it used to be me just reading headlines, and then I would kind of like rant and rave about those headlines. And if you
hmm
guys want to check out Ron, his show, Get Your News On with Ron, he does a good job with that. He does a really good job at picking apart current headlines, explaining you why it's BS or why you should support whatever he's promoting. So make sure you check him out on his YouTube channel as well. That's exactly why I wanted to invite him on because I think he'd be the perfect person to kind of bounce these ideas off of because he does exactly kind of the same thing that's around my line of work here. But the first thing I want to ask you, Ron, the first thing I want to ask you, what the hell is a Senate parliamentarian? What the hell is a Senate? Like,
Yes, it
that's the
is.
first thing I want to ask you because you've been I've been a political commentary for about a year. You've been around. You see some things. Have you ever seen a Senate parliamentarian have the kind of power that they say she has now?
Is unelected. It's an unelected position, and they're supposed to just basically say they're basically just supposed to be assurance that everybody's playing by the rules, essentially. I think that that's the gist of their job. But this Senate parliamentarian inexplicably has all this power that, and if you
The
want
most powerful person in America, apparently.
apparently, and what they are is the ultimate excuse. In reality, we know in reality this is the ultimate excuse for the Democrats to not really get anything done, because the Senate parliamentarian can be overruled, they're unelected, they can be fired even, and
Hmm.
yet they're just taking it. Oh, well, I guess we can't have a minimum wage because the Senate parliamentarian said so. I think within the next week or so they're just going to tell us that the Senate parliamentarian is in charge of immigration, because it's such a freaking train wreck. And I'm sure you already saw this, Nick, but Joe Biden just randomly announced, he's like, "Hey, Kamala Harris is on it. By the way, this is her bag now." He
Those
just
people.
announced that. That's how screwed up we are as a society. It's so bad at the border. They're just deciding.
Let's
Leaders are
put a
just
cop in
deciding
charge.
they're not in charge. And yeah, and then Kamala goes, "I'm not in charge. Don't look at me.
I
I'm not in
saw
charge." So yeah,
that.
yeah. So eventually they're just gonna be like, the Senate parliamentarian's in charge. The Senate, or they're going to say it was Jill Stein's job. They're like, it's on Jill Stein. She's not even in government. Yeah, but no, it's on her.
Who falls for this? That's why I will never understand because
Sadly,
it's
enough
to me
people.
it's obvious. I was I've only been in political commentary pretty recently, but I've been following politics for a while. I literally never seen the Senate parliamentarian has ever discussed before. And as you mentioned before, I think there was rolling the Senate parliamentarian rolled against the George Bush tax cuts at one
hmm
point. And then the GOP was like, "Nah, you can't do that. Get out of here." Like kick rocks. So if they want, I want anyone to know watching this now. If they want to get something done, they will get it done. They will find a way. They will move the books. Saying, guys, I think he might have. One second.
That's why we need municipal broadband
I
all
wanted to ask
around
you
the
about that as
country.
well. Yeah, hold on one second, guys. You guys know how we are. We get up.
I
Look, can you make
slide
sure
it in there
the
whenever
extension
I
cord is
can.
plugged in? The yeah, yeah. Cause it's loose. Oh, sorry, Ron. Give me 1 second, guys. 1 second.
No, man, do what you got to do. I always got to be careful with the cords because
It's not your fault.
if anything's loose, my cat makes me pay for it. My cat Lucy makes me pay for it. I don't know if we're live right now necessarily. If we are, I feel like I should just keep talking until Nick gets back to kind of be like, yeah, it's a show. So I guess I'll pretend we are. I mean, well, we might be. I don't know if we are or aren't. I'll just assume we are. Is the word I was looking for. Assume, not. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Okay, I appreciate you guys' patience. Appreciate it. I got roommates here, so I
I
had to be
feel you,
flexible here.
man. I
I think
feel you.
someone like tripped like I'm upset because my Ethernet cable like comes out really easily, and I think someone like tripped it, and I saw we like disconnected. I'm looking at the
Oh.
comments. I'm glad that we didn't lose my live. I see everyone's still commenting here. I'm glad that you guys are checking us out. You guys know how we are. We get it. We got to do it to get away. Anyway, we're talking about the parliamentarian. I want to share this because this is getting ridiculous, and we even uh like the media narrative they going along with it as well. Like they almost trying to cover Biden's tracks by covering the parliamentarian as well.
I
Uh,
think that Joe Biden, and actually, I'm curious. I want your take on this. I think Joe Biden might be the most coddled politician ever.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's remarkable, and a lot of it just has to do with like he was in the right place at the right time. Like I think one of the reasons he's so coddled right now is because everybody's just like, well, if we're not nice to him, we'll get the Trump again. Like, which is absurd. It's actually the opposite. If you let a politician do absolutely nothing, you're going to get another demagogue. That's how it works. But yeah, throughout his entire 40 something year career, he has just been so insanely coddled up into present point, and it's remarkable. He's
yeah.
like, I mean, anyway, it's like the two of them, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. It was just the entire like it was the entire realm of everything that's wrong with American politics in two people. On one end, you have this plutocrat who just the rules are different for them because they're rich. And on the other end, you have this blank suit, corrupt politician who's been, just using the game to their advantage for 40 plus years and plans to do it again. It's like everything wrong with the system. Like they were caricatures of everything that's wrong with the system.
I think you are 100% right because I cover this as well, and I was asking friends because we all know how propagandized this country is, and I often tell people that U.S. is the most propagandized country in the world. Period, and I say it because I want to make the point. I'm not here hedging like, oh, I think there may be. No, they are the most propagandized country because they are the most effective form of propaganda. But I also been like what you mentioned. I also been flagging my friend. I know we are propagandized, but I never seen the media coordinate and they deliver like the same lines that the Biden administration wants them to, like framing everything on the parliamentarian, pretending that Joe Biden is literally exactly what he's not. Like they're framing this whole thing that he's supposed to be the next FDR. He's one of the most progressive presidents. Like this is due to the media narrative. Also, kind of because the progressives, Bernie and the squad, they give the media permission to run these stories. When Pramila Jayapal come out and said, "Oh, we give Joe Biden an A," even though Joe Biden is funding multiple genocides as we speak, can't even give us healthcare in the middle of pandemic. But she said she get an A. LC said he did better than expected. That allows the media then to progressive. I actually got a story. I mean, I might as well put it now. I wanted to talk about this earlier because once again, Biden and his administration. I'm gonna find a story. I wanted to talk about it a little bit later, but I think this is a good segue. Check this
Well,
out.
it's
Just
it's so funny when they say like, "Oh, he gets an A," and everyone, and this is why people really shouldn't put politicians on pedestals. At the end of the day, they all work for the same car dealership. So, like them saying like, "Oh, Joe Biden gets an A." That's like the person who works at the Honda dealership saying, "Hey, the Civic has great gas mileage." Which, by the way, that's not a lie. The Honda Civic does have great gas mileage. But Joe Biden, if he were a car, he would not be a Honda Civic. He'd be like an old, like IROC from the 60s that's like broken down and really creepy and rapey looking.
so I'm gonna share a screen so you can see it here. My audience can see it. Uh, this is since we talking about propaganda. Look at this. This is what we can you see that, Ron?
Yeah.
All right, cool. You see,
Yeah.
it
Who
said
is
the
this
health
left that they're
insurance.
talking to?
The health insurance public option might be fizzling. The left is okay with that. You see that? This is
Yeah.
exactly what I was referring to, where you have the media uses the weakness of the progressives, and even the time where they praise Joe Biden because they want to take care of their own career, and then they use that to run propaganda for Joe Biden. So when AOC and Pramila Jayapal was saying that Joe Biden actually way better than we thought the progressives was going to be, they then use that to write headlines saying Joe Biden is pleasing the progressive left. And this is why Joe Biden has a 60% approval rating, whether you want to believe it or not. If you want to believe it, I side more on the side that there's some truth to it. So when you see that Donald Trump had, like, I think he was like flowing between 42% in his approval rating. You see Joe Biden flowing at 60. That largely have to do because the media running propaganda for him. And if you look at this article, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here. They pretty much just quoting progressive leaders like, yeah, Joe Biden, he's busy. Like, how are you too busy to provide health care for your people in the middle of a pandemic? How does that make sense?
It's amazing, and it's not even Obama. Like they didn't coddle Obama that way at all. I mean, I remember the first 2 years of Obama's presidency when he'd be like, "Well, I got a really full plate," and even the media would say, "Well, start eating." I mean, they did expect him to do some of the things he campaigned on, really, and then of course he was such a good talking guy. He lulled everybody back to sleep and what have you, but even Obama, like, was not coddled this way at all. I mean, I've never seen another president ever, Republican or Democrat, that's just been coddled in this way that is like no blame falls on them. All praise falls on them for anything that does go well. Like he's given full credit for, like the response to the pandemic and the vaccine getting around and stuff like that. He's given full credit there. He's given full credit for an infrastructure package that was still grossly insufficient. And now he's compromising even further on it. And he's given these accolades where, like, oh, this is such bold progressive legislation, and they're overlooking the small detail. And I say small detail sarcastically, they're overlooking the small detail that we're in a pandemic. Like this is a pandemic. Like these are proposals during a pandemic. It's not like times are quote unquote normal. And he's like, this is the bold agenda I have. No, times are pandemic times. So you have to do something bold. So when you look at it through that lens, he is doing at best the bare minimum. And even that's being too generous. And he's getting patted on the back for it. And it's just, I mean, it's absolutely remarkable.
I
I
love that
don't
you.
see how anybody can look at this country the same after this pandemic. And I include myself. And I'm not
Yes.
somebody who was like, hey, USA, we're doing great. I wasn't like that. I mean, I was the opposite of that before this. But even my expectations have been surpassed as far as
Yeah.
what a complete, just utter corporate coup this entire country is and what our government is. It's not a wrestling match at this point, because a wrestling match, there is actual physical struggles in a professional wrestling match.
Straight fake
This
now.
is this is beyond this is like faux choreographed wrestling esque type. I mean, it's pure theatrics, and it's
Perfectly
just
put.
nothing more than shield for Wall Street. And that's not even an embellishment. Like that's literally what it is. I don't see how you can go through this pandemic, see what this country did, and feel any differently about our electoral system.
Yeah, I feel
It,
like I remember last January when this is around the time I was canvassing with Bernie Sanders. If you asked me then that I would be like way further left than I am, like in like 18 months compared to I am now, I'll be like, what the hell happened? I'll be like, what happened? Because if you asked me in January, last January, I'll be like, man, I'm super far left, super socialist. I mean, it doesn't get more anti-establishment than me. That was my mindset. But now compared to I am right now, to where I was last January, I might as well have been a filthy moderate last January to compare how I am now. Because we've seen our failed system operate, and what you said is perfectly put. Because I'm watching like the media complicity and like the media loyalty to Joe Biden, and this is very scary stuff. Very scary stuff, especially now they're suppressing and go after independent news. Because if you guys think we are being too hyperbolic here, I want you guys to think about what happened the last time Joe Biden ran for president, and the last time before that. Joe Biden was a laughingstock of a candidate for the first three times he ran for president. He had to drop out because in the 80s, and our media never been great, guys. Never been great. But even in the 80s, they were like, all right, this dude's he's a serial liar. He's a plagiarizer. They look into his background. They're like, yo, he lied about his what? Get him out of here. Like, he was like laughed out of the room because the media looked at all his lies like, all right, this dude completely disqualified. And then I remember even during the Obama primary, there was like no, it wasn't the same kind of coverage that we see that propping up one candidate over another. So Joe Biden just directly dipped and fell below the polls again. The mainstream media turned Joe Biden into an electoral juggernaut, a guy who was a joke. He beat the MAGA movement. He beat Donald Trump, his movement. He beat the Bernie Sanders movement. Beat, right?
Yeah.
So that's the media. That's not Biden. That's not his team. The media created the greatest candidate that ever lived.
Well,
Like
I think it's both the media, it's the DNC. I mean, if we're talking like Bernie, it's the media and it's the DNC. Like they basically combine their powers to make sure that Joe Biden, quote unquote, beat Bernie. And then the Donald Trump thing, it's the media and it's also Donald Trump. I mean, I always say I'm like Joe Biden didn't really win the election as much as Donald Trump beat himself. Which what a lesson, man, because when you really take a step back, Republicans hate you so much. Like they hate people so much that they were willing to lose the White House to avoid helping people. They knew if we just had even a 2-month temporary UBI for everybody during a pandemic, even 2 months, that would have been like $4,000 a person, something like that. Donald Trump would have won. They knew
100%.
that. There's no way they didn't realize that. And they still would rather not do it. And Democrats, on the other hand, Democrats are so painfully ineffective and also would rather not help you if it would help them politically win the White House because they were trying to, stall checks and this and that. I mean, it was just such a powerful statement as to how much your government truly doesn't care about you at all, and you are nothing more than a cog for capitalism, and they are only there for Wall Street, and the only power you have is to shut the system down and go on strike. That is the only power we have.
In MAGA Trump fans, they always make 1,000 excuses. They always say, "Oh, Trump lost because of COVID," and I'm like, "Bro, Trump could have won because of COVID. What?
Right.
Like that is
Right.
not an excuse. That
Yeah,
is,
like he did it to himself.
yeah. If anything, COVID would have been a godsend to Trump because I was saying this around the time. Remember when Trump was pretending to be a populist? At the end of the day, Trump is a weak beta who listens to whoever his boss, whoever like the GOP wanted him to do, he would do. Like that. At the end, of the day, he was a big talk. He was a big talker, a big mouth. He fooled a lot of people. But at the end of the day, Trump he just wanted to be loved by the establishment. Whether
Right.
that, but the GOP establishment, the Democratic establishment, doesn't matter. That's why Trump always will fold. Like he would say, "Oh, yeah, we'll pull out all these wars," and then the generals would come in and convince him not to do it because
Oh
you
yeah.
don't want to upset him. That's who Trump really was. So I remember there was a point where Trump was like, "Yeah, I think it's a pandemic. We need to take care of our people. In fact, I think we should provide health care to the people." And there was literally a point. It was like around March and May. He was saying this stuff, and I'm like, all right, if he actually does that, it's game over for the Democrats. Like
Right.
if Donald Trump actually he don't even have to go as far as I would want him to. Like because he's a Republican, he could be mealy mouthed about it. He could say, "Okay, we're gonna provide health care to anyone who catches COVID." Like me, I say anyone. Like COVID, cancer, it's the same damn thing. Treat them. But Trump could have said, "I will cover anyone who catches COVID in the middle of a pandemic," and I reject this Reagan idea. I think we should pay people why they are at home at work, justifying the UI, right? And then if he did that with his MAGA Trump supporters, they are a cult. Yeah, they are. They are fiscal conservatives. They're not, but they claim they are. If Trump said we doing $1,000 a month, once again, not even going as far as I want him to, like he could do $1,000 a month, provide health care to his people, and he will beat Joe Biden by a landslide.
Oh, big
Like one
time.
big
Oh
margin.
yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think a lot of his diehard followers, I don't even know if there's any political ideology there, really. I think it's just cult of personality.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that
Trump.
so anything he would say, like they would go with it. I mean, if he's like, yeah, everyone should have a UBI, they'd be like,
Hell
cool.
yeah. They call it
So
Patriot Bucks. Call it Patriot
yeah,
Care.
call it Patriot Bucks. Call it
They,
yeah.
they would ate it up. You would like Trump could have turned his whole base to a socialist if he wanted to, based on how much they would like listen to wherever they want him to say. I mean, it could have been done. So when MAGA used excuse like, "Oh, we would win if it wasn't for COVID," horrible excuse. Like that is not an excuse. In fact, I was thinking like, "Yo, if the Democrats screwed us up, Trump could easily win." But then as the race was getting closer, I was like, there were a lot of leftists like, "Oh, y'all think Biden's gonna get destroyed?" Like, hey, yo, guys, I don't want to say that. I literally got tweeted. I was like, "Yo, I think Biden is running a horrible campaign, but MAGA is way worse." like I was looking at Trump in the campaign that was running, and they was trying to paint the idea that Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe, was a secret socialist. And I'm like, what?
Well,
Why would you do that?
that was interesting. And I even like as the election season heated up, I thought Trump was going to win. I mean, I predicted Trump was going to win. And it wasn't until those last couple weeks that I kind of thought, well, it's possible Donald Trump's going to beat Donald Trump here, and Joe Biden's going to quote unquote win. Again, Donald Trump beat Donald Trump,
Yeah,
but
I was
but
calling it around August. Around August, I was
oh, good
like,
for you. No,
yeah,
for
I
me it
was
was
like, guys, like, I remember because I was clarifying because I remember when the race was still going on, I was like, yo, if it's Biden versus Trump, Trump's gonna eat him alive. But then COVID happened, and then I'm like, all right, things changed, so you gotta see
it
how
changed the
campaigns are ran.
game.
I was
Yeah,
thinking that Trump was gonna run the same way he did against Hillary, but that was his campaign was
he
the result of
didn't.
Steve Bannon. Like that was like Steve Bannon left and he didn't know how to win a race no more.
Well, and that's what I say. Trump accidentally, like he didn't do this on purpose, but he accidentally gave the left a gift that we still have yet to realize. And the gift he gave us in 2016, he ran on this like fake right-wing populism thing, which was a bunch of baloney. It was a bunch of lies, but people were desperate, so they bought into it. And that's how he won. In 2020, he didn't do that again. Like he didn't do that the second time. What he ran on was if you don't vote for me, we're going to get
Yeah,
socialism.
he ran
And
a
it
Sean
didn't
Hannity campaign.
work. It
He
didn't work. And that's like such a big lesson that people aren't scared of. Well, I mean, some people are, but like for the most part, like the public is not scared about buzzwords like socialism anymore. They want to know what you're going to do to make their lives better. And if you just use, that's why, I mean, this whole idea that Bernie couldn't have won, of course he would have. He would have won both times. He would have
would
won in
destroy them.
2016. He would have won in 2020 because people were not that scared of these quote socialism buzzwords. They wanted people with bold ideas that were going to make the status quo better. And so, Donald Trump's whole, if it's not me, it's socialism. Well, enough people, even if they did believe that, thought we'll take our chances on socialism because you are not acceptable.
Yeah, and I remember in 2016, Donald Trump was hitting Hillary Clinton on hardcore corruption, like calling out the Clinton Foundation for taking money from foreign governments. He called out her for taking money from Saudi Arabia and doing Saudi Arabian favors. Like he was like liberals lost their mind, but he was saying real stuff, like real criticism of Hillary Clinton when he was calling out her corruption or warmongering. Like it's like real stuff that's going on there. He went from that to I mean, look at there's mountains of corruption with Biden. Biden, how he enriched his family. Hell, even the Hunter Biden story is you got mouths of material there. But instead of attacking the corruption, also because he know he really couldn't, but I don't know why that would stop him. He could easily just call out Joe Biden for supporting the crime bill, being supporting the
Well,
bankruptcy bill, being
and
a
I
far
think
right winger.
I think part of the reason he didn't do that is because, in 2016, he was really able to trick people at the end of the day into thinking he was some big outsider. He couldn't do that because for
Yeah,
4 years he had the gig and he proved that he's just another insider. And a
that's a
lot
good
of
point.
people realize that they realize it's like, a lot of people who took a chance on Trump, one of the reasons they did so, they were like, we want an outsider. We're tired of the Beltway. We're tired of DC as usual. And then Trump proved he's like, I'm
That's a
not
good
an
point.
outsider. I'm just the guy who was doing the buying instead of being bought. But I'm no outsider. He proved that. when he was president. And so, like, he couldn't run on that outsider thing anymore. No one was going to fall for it this second time. So he had to pick something else. And he picked, like, Joe Biden's a socialist, which didn't work.
Yeah, that's such a good point because it's easy to be the populist bomb thrower who just attacking everyone when you don't have a record to run on. So when he was a challenger, even when he was on the Republican platform, he was just calling everyone out for being corrupt and being inefficient. But what happens
And
when
it
you
was
have?
hilarious.
Yeah, it was.
I
I
mean,
don't
I,
care.
I don't
It
like
was
Trump at
hilarious.
all, but it was hilarious just watching him dunk on this clown car of
Yeah.
Marco Rubio, Chris Christie. And, I do this thing where I write a farewell letter to every outgoing president. So I wrote one to Donald Trump, and I mentioned that. I'm like, it was entertaining when you were doing this, and a lot of people were fooled by it, but some of us knew better. You were just the leader of the clown car. You were just, it's basically like you're like the crust on a piece of shit. Like, it's still shit. And that's what that was. It didn't mean Trump wasn't any better than those other people. He was just so tired of their nonsense, and he could call it out because he wasn't a politician himself at the time. And yeah, I mean, he wasn't able to do that in 2020.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, he ran a Sean Hannity campaign. He
Yeah,
ran he ran a campaign like he was taking direction from Sean Hannity, not knowing that that's only
he
winning a
probably
very
was.
yeah a very
That's his
small
boy.
amount. Yeah, a very small amount of people was buying that, and that was a clear difference for me. That's why I was calling around April, August, and because I was one of the people that were vocal like, "Yo, if anyone on Bernie, Trump gonna win." But I adjust what I say based on new information, and I was calling early like, "Yo, as much as I said that Biden is running an awful campaign, Trump is doing even worse." It didn't make any sense that he ran the campaign the way he did because he wasn't even like funny anymore. And just like you said, I was watching the 2016 Republican primary and I was screaming at the TV like when seeing because I always been a giant political nerd. I was watching these corrupt people. I was watching Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Chris Christie. I watched these people destroy the country for my entire life. And I get to see this guy roasting them. I'm like, all right, this is great TV. And if you were denying that, you had Trump to it was good stuff
Right.
to see
I
him
agree.
call out these people on the corruption to their face. Doesn't matter who's doing it. As long as you calling out the corruption, that's what I would like to see. You can ask people to know. I'm like, dude, this is if anyone there, like Trump is the only one actually calling out the corruption, then he's gonna lose to anyone who's a competent candidate. But once again, Hillary Clinton not competent, and that's their fault. Not people who decide not to vote for her. But with that said, you mentioned earlier we was talking. You called out our political system as performative, pretty much like WWE style fakeness, and it's pretty much a show. It's a pageantry. And you want to know who is the villain now, Ron? The who you want to know who's the heel? Since we're using that terminology, we using the heel right now is Joe Manchin. Joe
Hmm.
Manchin is officially the fall guy for the Democratic Party. So the news now, I'll share this so you guys can see what I am referring to. Joe Manchin strikes again.
Yeah, he's the convenient excuse.
The story is why I pulled this up. Joe Manchin, he decided he's gonna vote against HR 1. This is the big legislation that the Democratic Party has been pushing and marketing for quite a while now. And there's are legitimate good things in that bill. For example, they have the automatic voter registration. They're going to fix gerrymandering. They also have public financing of election. No, sorry, they reform not public financing. They are revamping and actually putting more regulation on like the financing, where you have to like corporations who donate to PACs have to like disclose that. Me, not that's not a big deal. That doesn't matter. Money to corrupt. They find a way to corrupt. They're not giant, but the automatic voter
Yeah.
registration, the gerrymandering, that those two things are giant. But you want to know who we got? Joe Manchin, who's now coming out and saying that he's not going to vote for this. Surprise, surprise! This is exactly
Yeah.
what Progressive's been warning you guys about with Joe Manchin. Meanwhile, you got Elizabeth Warren saying we giving spirited defenses of Joe Manchin. Right? You got Democrat.
Isn't it so funny? The same people who say blue no matter who are the same people who say we can't get anything nice because of Joe Manchin. Isn't it interesting? Those are the same people.
The
And
same people.
it's like you don't see what a freaking game this is. You tell us blue no matter who, and then you blame a Democrat for policy not coming through.
It's hilarious because they always attacked. They're like, oh, we can't support Bernie Sanders because he's not a Democrat. Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin voting against your party. Where's the same energy for him? Where's the same energy for him? Now, some of this stuff, my viewers gonna see. You're not be able to see. You're not gonna see all this stuff, Ron. But I read out what I'm showing on screen here. This is a concept here. I put up so my viewers can see it. I'm gonna explain it to you. It's a concept called villain rotation, and this is what we are seeing now. Here it is. Villain rotation. You can't see it, Ron, but I'll read it out. I got it for my audience. Um, in American democracy, when the majority party, to be fair, I don't know if this is actually like a real definition or a real thing, but this is 100% on the money. What I got put up here. In American democracy, when the majority party has enough votes to pass populist legislation, party leaders designate a scapegoat who will refuse to vote with the party, thereby killing the legislation. The opposition is otherwise inapplicable. I'm saying that horribly, and typically comes from someone who is safe, like Joe Manchin. He's in West Virginia, pretty safe. Or they also pick people, just to add on here, they pick people who are in blue states who possibly need some Republican votes to win. So then, like someone like Chris Sinema can be like, "Oh, see, man, I'm not partisan. I support Democrats, and sometimes I vote against my party if I need." So it's those things too. Like either you're in a safe district or you're in a purple district. Those are the people they allow you to have excuse. And the example they give was the most prominent example of this in history. Senator Joe Lieberman was the guy before. Now there's no Joe Lieberman. Now it's Joe Manchin. I want people to understand they will always find a way not to have the votes. They will always find a way not to have votes. So when they decide not to have a way to find, they didn't figure out how to find a way to not get this vote done. Doesn't surprise me at all. This is what they always do.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like I mean, a lot of this has like very strong 2008 to 2010 vibes where it's like, oh, we can't get anything done because there's too many people who oppose what Barack Obama wants to do. And then there's 2 years of excuses. And then, of course, it's a bloodbath in the midterms. And Democrats can just point to Republicans as why we can't get anything done. And yeah, HR1 is interesting because there are some really good things in that bill. You're totally right.
But there's
There's
some
also a
things.
few poison pills for like third parties.
I'm glad you brought
a-
that up.
And
I
it's
want
just
you to
like,
explain that to the
why?
audience. I wanted to bring that up here soon, but since you're in the topic, explain a little bit of
Sure.
why some Green Party people are hung up on HR1.
It's been a long time since I like really looked like combed through the details because this was a while back, but HR1, there are some good things in that bill. And also I want to mention a lot of the good things in that bill. They're things that we should just already have. Like they're things that like we should have never been in this problem in the first place. Like something like gerrymandering never should have happened in the first place. So you shouldn't need policy to like, get it out or whatever. But there were a few things in HR1 that made it infinitely harder for third parties to get matching funds, that made it infinitely harder for them to, I believe, like the way they collect signatures and stuff like that. Like there's a few poison pills, is what they're referred to as, that really harms third parties, which of course there's bipartisan support for that because Democrats and Republicans, none of them want third parties because that endangers their little gravy train they got going, where the Republicans are allowed to be as gruesome as they want to be because of how ineffective the Democrats are, and vice versa. Democrats are as able to be as ineffective as they are because of how gruesome Republicans are, and that's bipartisanship, baby. So the Green Party did not, to my knowledge, the Green Party didn't come out against the entire bill. They just said, can you get rid of these poison pills? Because the Green Party saw the good parts of that bill too. And they said, get rid of these poison pills. And of course, they were smeared and people were like, oh, look at all the good things in this bill. And
Didn't
the
Ryan
Green
Grimm?
Party's
Didn't Ryan Grimm go after them
he
for
did.
bring?
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
he
I
was one of
remember
them.
that.
Yeah,
That's
Ryan Grimm
crazy.
did, a bunch of other people did. And they misrepresented what the Green Party was actually saying. The Green Party was saying, get rid of these poison pills. They weren't saying the whole thing is bad. So, you know, but And why would the Green Party not stand up for third parties? Like, what do you like? Why would you? They're a third party.
Yeah,
Like, they're a third party. Like, so. Anyway, yeah, that's basically what went down there. And as far as I know, the poison pills are still in there. They didn't do anything about that. And
yeah.
so,
That's
but yeah, I don't think the bill is gonna go anywhere anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And trust me, they found their excuse why. And Joe Manchin is their excuse. And I don't give any legitimacy to this fraudulent political. I'm not buying to their kayfabe. Like if I was to repeat that, oh, Joe Manchin is, yeah, he just acting rogue. He taking the Democratic agenda. Shame on Joe Manchin. I'm not buying that. Like I feel like I don't even want to give legitimacy to the talking points because that's obviously what they want you to believe. So this is what I'm referring to here. I'll read it so you can see it, Ron. I got it for our audience here. So Joe Manchin announced Sunday he will vote. He will not vote for this is officially known as the For the People Act HR 1, which is a massive elections and ethics reform package Democrats have proposed. His announcement immediately imperils the bill, which is universally opposed by Republicans. So you gotta love how Joe Biden's ability to whip Republican support like he said he would, right? But once again, Republicans are not supporting the bill once again, so they needed all the Democrat senators to fall in line. He said no. And next time would be Kristen Sinema as well, guys. And this is what he says. He says, it's the wrong piece of legislation to bring our country together and unite our country.
Wow.
Didn't you guys? Wasn't you guys just complaining about January 6th? So you guys claim like I am tired of the January 6th fear mongering, but according to you guys, January 6th was a bunch of Republicans who are traitors to this country who try to illegally overthrow democracy. Those are the people you don't want to. Those are the people that you don't want to. Those people you want to keep unified, right, Mansion? See, their excuses don't make sense at face value because even if I fall for their fear mongering, like, oh, Republicans are anti-democracy and Democrats are pro-democracy. Why are you guys trying to unify Republicans instead of squashing them? So what? And one reason why Manchin don't support a filibuster, he's like, oh, it's not bipartisan. This is too divisive for me. Why are you guys trying to be? Why are you are not trying to be divisive to a party you guys claim is a party of traitors? Like, if I really believe what you guys, I think all of them are traitors. To be clear on my position, but if I
Sure.
believe what you guys believe, where the Democratic Party are the good guys and Republicans are seditious traitors who support another traitor, Donald Trump, why are you giving them any leverage? Like, it doesn't make
No,
any.
yeah. I mean, well,
That's how
that
you
was
know they don't
such.
believe it, right? That's how you
Oh,
know they don't believe it.
absolutely. I mean, that whole time when they were saying Donald Trump is a traitor, Donald Trump is a treasonous, let's expand his spying powers. Let's fast track some of his
Right?
judges. You were just saying the guy's a traitor to the country and you're giving him more spying powers. You're fast tracking his judges. You're helping him cut food stamps. You're giving him, like he's doing whatever he wants with the Supreme Court. You're talking about what a traitor he is. He's bombing Syria. You're talking about what a traitor he is. I mean, if they believed any of their bullshit, I mean, especially CIA Democrats like Adam Schiff, which isn't that amazing that CIA Democrat is
Oh
a
my
thing,
god.
but
AOC
I
loves
mean,
to fund them.
huh?
AOC loves giving them money, apparently.
I mean, it's comically ridiculous, dude. I mean, it really is. It is a play, and by the way, a poorly written one.
Very poorly because it's so easy to see through. Like I'm watching this, and that's why I'm mentioning you brought it up. It's literally the perfect example. It's just theater. It's like American politics is WWE without any talent. like there's
Yeah.
nothing there. Like when you see what they are selling us, because what they sell us is that Joe Manchin, Chris Cinema, they're the reason why we are blocking progress. Okay, so why are there so many people with Marjorie Taylor Greene derangement syndrome? And people get mad at me like, why are you guys focused on Marjorie Taylor Greene? It's a fact that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema has done way more to tank Biden's agenda than Marjorie Taylor Greene has done. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene has done nothing to stop the Biden agenda. Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema has. But we probably scared of Marjorie Taylor Greene though, a relevant Republican congressman in deep red Georgia. That's the game they play. They want you to focus on Kristen Cinema. I'm sorry, they want you to focus on Marjorie Taylor Greene, so you can't pay attention to the fact that Joe Biden can't even get stuff done when his party controls the entire government. It's a entire game. And if you guys don't think it's a game, if you really don't think it's a game, let me ask you guys this question right here. Check this out. I'll let Ron know what I'm pulling up here. This is from the primary. Democratic leaders willing to risk party damage to stop Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
So the party is willing to do whatever it takes to stop Bernie, who's bringing more people into the party. They like Nancy Pelosi just came out with an article I'll pull it up here soon, and this was a few weeks ago, where she was still sniping and attacking AOC. AOC has done everything that Joe Biden and the Democratic Party wanted her to do. She had done nothing to tank any of Biden's agenda. In fact, she wanted to help fund the police more to pass the Democratic Party agenda. Do you
Yeah, she
see
voted
them
present.
having? Do you see them having meetings about stopping Joe Manchin? Do you see Nancy Pelosi calling out Joe Manchin or Kristen Sinema? Instead, she's sniping at AOC. And her quote that she gave at the time is, I'll put an article so you guys see exactly what I'm talking about here. But the article she was talking about at the time, where she said, "Oh, AOC, the squad, this is not a one-man show. You gotta play ball. You gotta be a team player to make it in this party." Here, I think Ron can see it now. I'll
Yeah, I
show it
can
so
see
you guys
it.
see it. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna make sure my my people can see this. Here it is. You see, Nancy Pelosi's disdain for the squad is not a good look for the leader. This is a few weeks ago, right? And
Hmm.
this is what she said in particular. This is a story that said Nancy Pelosi never been subtle about her disdain for the left. The House Speaker once scoffed that a glass of water could have won LCC. So what she's describing here, and this is when she described the Green New Deal as the Green New Dream. Like there's all these snipes that come from Nancy Pelosi to AOC in the squad. But the
Hmm.
AOC and the squad, they've done nothing to tank the Democratic Party agenda. Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin has. So why aren't you seeing these articles where you have centrist Democrats like Nancy Pelosi and them attacking
Mad
them?
at them. Yeah. Well,
That's how
you
you
know
know it's a
what?
game.
You know what I think it is, man? It's I think it's a quote from a Batman movie, but it's like
And see,
you
this is the
hang
part where they
out.
said, oh, sorry, this is the part when she said, sorry, let you finish, Ron. But did she describe AOC as trying to run a one-person show? Who does that sound like to you right now? That's Joe
Yeah, right.
Manchin, not AOC. But sorry, Ron, go ahead.
Well, and it's Nancy Pelosi, really, when you think about it. I
Yeah.
mean, she's, the donor dinner queen. But I think it's one of those things where you either, and I'm paraphrasing a quote from one of the Batman movies, but it's you either stick around, you either become the villain or you stick around long enough to die a hero. I think that's a quote from a Batman movie. And I think that is really applicable to the Democratic Party, not in the literal sense, but in the sense of you either play the game or eventually they get rid of you. And Dennis Kucinich has a book that I think just dropped recently that really goes into all this. And I think he's a prime example of that. He was a guy who really tried to use electoralism for real progressive change, and he didn't really play the game the way they wanted him to. And so it took them a while, but eventually they got rid of him. And I think that's American politics, and especially the Democratic Party, because the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party on the surface is the Democrats are more subtle about the fact that they're really not for working people. The Republicans can just they don't need to make any qualms about it. Like they're there for the rich. That's who they're for, and they don't give a shit about anyone else. Democrats, they need to be more subtle about that so that people think, like there's actually a real competition going on here. So I think that the Joe Manchins, you're never going to see any anger towards the Joe Manchin because they're doing the donor's bidding. They're playing it the company way. And should you play it the company way, even if you go against your own party, that's okay. Now, if you're actually trying to really institute true systemic change, you either get that out of your system and you get in line, or eventually they're going to get rid of you.
Exactly. And that's exactly the show of politics in a nutshell. So you can see by the response that the establishment give, that even the party leaders give to the other members, the difference. Like, why isn't Joe Manchin being yanked from all his committee appointments? Like,
Yeah.
he's not. Even though like ALC and the squad, they were constantly threatening with that. They never get the committee assignment they want. Meanwhile, Joe Manchin is like single handedly taking. Once again, I put in quotes because this is me playing their game, the Biden agenda, right? So even playing their game, what they're selling is ridiculous. And the funny thing is that Joe Biden is not even remotely mad at Joe Manchin, even though we knew that Joe Manchin was going to be the number one person to tank the Biden agenda. And maybe I want to see what your take on this, Ron, because actually had multiple takes on this because this was actually a while back. This is March 6th. I'm gonna read it because you can't see it. I got it for my crowd here. It said Joe Biden taps Sanders Manchin's wife to co-chair the Appalachian Board. So he hires Joe Manchin's wife, gives her a job. So I have two takes on this. I want to see what your takes on this. This was either him trying to buy Joe Manchin's loyalty, or this is him playing the nepotism game. They don't really care what Joe Manchin was gonna do anyway. What's your take on that? Because I'll actually lean both ways. Like, was that him trying to get Manchin on board to pass the agenda? I lean more toward the second one because the first one is me playing to their game a little bit too much. My second one is like, no, that's just him playing the game. That's just, scratch your back, you scratch mine. Manchin, you make sure you take my agenda so I actually don't get none of the stuff done, and I hire a wife. What's your take on
I
that,
think it's a
Ron?
little bit of both. I mean, I do think there's like, yeah, I mean, nepotism's definitely a play. I mean, look at how Biden is with his own kid. But I think there also is he kind of needs to, he needs to appear somewhat effective. So he kind of needs Manchin to, play the game with him a little bit. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, Joe Biden, he I don't think he's going to run for reelection, so I don't think he has to worry about that. But I think he wants to be primed to hand it off to Kamala.
Yeah, they are running manufacturer consent stories for a Kamala. I didn't get a chance to save it, but I saw it like shortly before I jumped on live where they had a story like, yeah, this I don't want to butcher it because I ain't say, but it was an article like, yo, Vice President Kamala Harris' future ambitions does it like you know how they do that thing with me like does it include a presidential run? We
Right.
never know. You know, but I think but they
Yeah,
were like, we
it
think her
is.
experience as vice president will help her if she decides to run. And so it's
Mhm.
like one of the stories where they want to groom you to thinking that she's gonna be next president. So I'm gonna cover it because I didn't get a chance to like really dive into it. Maybe next year I'll cover that story, but they already putting those stories out there, letting people get comfortable with the idea of a Kamala Harris running again. And this is why I'm telling lefties because the lefty response I've seen so far is like, oh, Kamala Harris run, she get destroyed because she was a joke in the primary. But remember what I just said. Joe Biden was a joke too. Joe
Yeah.
Biden was a laughing stock the first few times he ran for president, but then the media switch, and just like that, he became unstoppable. So if you
Well,
guys
I
think this,
think
go ahead.
Kamala, I think, was the first anointed one from the
Yeah,
DNC.
absolutely.
I mean, I think Kamala is who they really wanted to shove down our throats. And the people said no. I mean, she didn't even show up in her own state because here in California, we know what she's all about. Um, so they tried Kamala, didn't work. They tried Buttigieg, didn't work. They tried Beto, and despite all the cool jean jackets, still didn't work. And they tried Warren, and then they tried Warren a second time. And when none of it worked, they just said, okay, we're all getting behind Biden then, because we're gonna sink Bernie Sanders no matter what. And I almost feel like there was a little bit of an FU to the American people
Yeah,
because
one
it's
hundred
just like,
percent.
all right, if you're not gonna accept the first people we tried to shove down your throats, you're gonna have to settle for the worst
We
one.
get Jim Crow Joe. You better
Yeah,
pick
you're
Kamala,
getting
or we
Jim
get.
Crow Joe. It's like I mean, it was almost just like, well, fuck you, America. You could have had Kamala, you could have had Buttigieg, you could have had Warren, but you're getting Joe, the one that people liked less than all of them.
Do you know they tried Amy Klobuchar? Like they wanted to be
Amy
Amy.
Klobuchar.
They
Yeah.
tried, but they couldn't. They couldn't pull it off. They tried their best every debate, every single time they had a chance to talk. Like literally every debate, they're like I think Amy Klobuchar turned out the winner in this debate
But no
every
one is
time.
gonna you can't win the presidency if every time you talk it sounds like you just got done crying. Like there was something wrong with her. Like she sounded like she just finished crying every time she spoke. And I felt bad for her. I was like, does she need a hug? Like what's going on? She just sounds really and that's just how she talked.
It just she
Um
wasn't ready for like
she
the
was
thing is Amy Klobuchar.
strange.
Yeah, Amy Klobuchar is a prosecutor. And there's
Yeah.
some people that you can train them to be like a politician or everyone, but that's what she was. And then she rose to prominence, like, oh, we want you to be president. But she just didn't have it. Like just like Kamala, they just don't have like no matter
They
what
just
we
don't
feel
have
about
it.
Yeah, no matter how we feel about Obama, Obama had it. Like Obama was the perfect vessel for them. Like you hear him speak, like all right, that's he's telling the truth. Like the people that
Dude,
believe.
I got behind him, and he wasn't even my first choice in the primary in '08. Dennis Kucinich was. But I
Yeah.
got behind him. I'm like, this guy, he's gonna be the bridge. I mean, I never thought Obama was a huge lefty, because if you actually read his platform, he wasn't. But I thought he was gonna be a bridge to a more progressive America. I really did think that for way too long. I gave him the benefit of the doubt for way longer than I should have. And
even,
you live and learn.
even when I even knowing what I do know now, I'll see like old Obama speeches. I'm like, damn, I know how he trick people. like now
Yeah,
being
the guy was good, man. He
yeah,
was a good talker, dude. There's no getting
yeah.
around that.
Yeah, now I look at some politics. I'm like, I don't know how Joe Biden, I don't know how Kamala Harris, I don't know how Pete Buttigieg, I don't know how any of these people trick anyone. But even now, I look at Obama speaking. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like I get how
Yeah.
he pulled. I get how he tricked everybody because he was good. Damn, like you hear him speak, you actually think he gives a fuck, and that's insane. Like there's no politician that has that natural ability in that. I want to share this this last. I want to get this last on this because before we about 15 minutes till we hit the hour. Because one thing that's been happening recently was Joe Biden folded once again. He's supposed to be the master negotiator. He's supposed to be the one who get Republicans. That's how they sold him in mainstream media. That's how they sold him in corporate media. They're like, oh, there are liberals that are like, yeah, I actually like Bernie Sanders as an idea, but we actually need someone who gets something done. We need
Yeah.
someone who got experience reaching across the aisle to get Republican
We need
support.
someone who gets stuff done, like the crime bill and the Patriot Act and the Iraq War. We need someone who gets stuff done. I always love it when they use that gem. Well, what if it was 40 years of doing horrible shit? Well, they're getting stuff done. Okay.
There's so many ways you can pick that apart. The number one thing is it's not true because Joe Biden once again buckled on tax cuts, and he was planning on slightly increasing the corporate tax rate, which actually was a slide to the right, which they always do because Trump slashed the corporate rate, and Biden and Democrats come in and propose to fix it where it's less than where it was. Apparently, Biden dropped that all together recently, and he was like, "Oh, we can't do that. We can't negotiate with this, so we're gonna drop that altogether." And everyone's like, "What?" I thought
Yeah.
this was the guy who was supposed to be a great negotiator. And once again, I tell you guys, I do not buy into the kayfabe of politics. If you want the kayfabe, if you want the face value politics, TYT majority report is right over there. I'm telling you guys how this shit actually works. If you guys don't think that Joe Biden had any intention, he had no intention of raising corporate tax rate. He had no intention of doing that. If you guys don't believe me, I covered this on my show before. When I say Joe Biden is a Mitch McConnell Democrat, I am not BSing you. Like a lot of people don't know that it was his job during the Obama administration to negotiate with Republicans. And what is one thing that happened during the Obama administration? They kept the George Bush tax cuts permanent when they
Mm,
didn't have to do that. They could have let it expire by sunset clause, but they decided not to. Why did they do that? Because Joe Biden agrees with trickle down economics. You guys don't believe
yeah.
me? I saw this. I saw this in December. I'm gonna share it so you can see it as well, Ron. Give me 1 second, guys, because I saw this in December, and then the person who tweeted this out at the time, brilliant headline too. He said, "I have no idea how this speech never came up during the campaign." I'm sorry, Ron. Give me 1 second so I can share so you can see it. And I'll play this so you guys can understand that this was always the plan. Now I'll rewind it. You see, this tweet came from Beat Block. This was in December. He said, "I have no idea how this speech never came up, and I wish it did too. I don't know if I missed it, but check this out. This is Joe Biden essentially agreeing with Mitch McConnell on the idea of trickle down economics, and this is how I always knew what he was selling was BS. Let's check this out.
I don't want to get him in trouble, nor does he want to get me in trouble. We talked honestly.
Can you hear it, Ron?
I can't really hear it.
I think I gotta do it again. I think I got a lot of audio. 1 second. I think I forgot. I forgot one step. Now you should be able to hear it.
I don't want to
Not
get him
here.
in trouble, nor does he want to get me in trouble. We talked honestly and frankly about the big things that were left to be done. And we could not agree, even the two of us, on some of them. But we agreed on a process. We agreed on a process. And we're able to reach the only major compromise, only truly bipartisan
The only
event that
compromise.
occurred in the first 2 years of our administration. The compromise on tax policy, which Mitch acknowledged, which
You guys hear that? What he's saying here is that he's praising. He's staying with Mitch McConnell. They're good friends. That's well known.
Yeah,
And
they're
he's saying
buddies.
that one of the few things that they agreed on was tax policy. Now let the video
both
continue.
believe has spurred the economic growth.
I want you guys to hear that one time. Let me go back.
But we agreed on a process. We agreed on a process. And we're able to reach the only major compromise, only truly bipartisan event that occurred in the first 2 years of our administration. The compromise on tax policy, which Mitch acknowledged, which we both believe has spurred the economic growth. We got a long way to go, but it actually not only was a compromise.
You guys hear that? That's Joe Biden saying that the Bush tax cuts spurred economic growth. So that tells you that he really believes this. I'll let the video finish. I'm going to go off.
That was useful for the economy. We both got beat up.
Both got beat up.
But we knew we were doing the right thing.
So this clip is extremely revealing. Like this person said, they don't know how this didn't come up in the campaign. Honestly, it wouldn't have mattered because the media wouldn't cover it. But this is why this doesn't. This is why I called out Joe Biden for all his lies. I called out all his campaign lies, and people were saying, "Oh, we should vote for Joe Biden because he's going to give us a public option. Oh, we should vote for Joe Biden because he's going to give us a $15 minimum wage." I was looking at those people, and I was like, "You're an idiot. You're an idiot if you actually believe anything he said he's going to do." Because and look at that clip. He fundamentally agrees with the concept of trickle-down economics, because he said if we push the George Bush tax cut, that was for economic growth. So the reason why, once again, if you want the kayfabe of politics, there are other channels that you watch, MSNBC, TYT, whatever. But I'll tell you how this really works. The reason why Joe Biden didn't fight for a $15 minimum wage is because he legitimately don't believe in it. Joe Biden still, like, you guys think he's 60 years old at that clip. Do you guys really think that Joe Biden had a major shift in economic policy at 60? No, he really believed in Reagan economics, and now he's using all the excuses so he can continue to implement it. The Senate parliamentarian, for example. If Joe Biden really believed that we should pass a minimum wage, he would have got it done. But he don't believe we should, because he believed that the businesses should be able to exploit workers to maximize profit. That way it comes down to. That's why he's not giving us a public option. That's why he's not giving us any health care. He fundamentally agrees with Mitch McConnell on economics. So when he folds on taxes, that's what TYT, that's what a lot of corporate media wants you to believe that. Oh, he don't want to raise the corporate tax rate because he can. Bullshit. You guys just seen he agrees with the concept of lowering taxes on the rich, having regressive taxes and fees on the working class. This is who the Democratic Party is. That's who Joe Biden is.
Yeah, because I mean, and he was only proposing to bring it back. I mean, it was at 35%. Trump brought it down to 21. He only wanted to go back up. Well,
I think it was like 28,
quote unquote, 28.
Yeah, 28. Yeah.
So, and I think that's called. I might be wrong on this, but I think the term for that is the ratchet effect.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, where it's like they take us so far to the right, and then it goes back a little bit, and then it just goes really far to the right again. Or in some cases, it never goes back, and it'll eventually go even further to the right.
That is exactly how they are playing, you guys. It's a game, and that's why I want people to understand that the ruling class are not as dumb as they want you to believe. Because there's nothing that they want more than you to think, oh, Joe Biden's not getting this done because he's incompetent. That's a great excuse for them. That's a great excuse for them. The reality of the situation is they are not getting this done because the corporations that fund them don't want to get it done. So people are surprised. Joe Biden, I can't believe he can't even give us a public option. Joe Biden's campaign, and the reason why he carried through Super Tuesday was because Big Pharma was funding his campaigns. They were literally attacking Bernie Sanders and Medicare for All during their debate. Big Pharma funding his campaign. But you guys think he did pass policy that goes against their wishes? Like, is this supposed to be politics 101? Like, the same guy who said he was arrested protesting with Nelson Mandela in South Africa. That's the guy you want to believe. That's the guy you want to take at face value. Doesn't make any sense to me.
It's remarkable. I mean, one guy started his campaign with a huge grassroots swell of people who came out to see him, who really wanted change. Another guy started his campaign at a Comcast executive dinners, and they put their thumb on the scale for the Comcast guy, and that's American politics. I mean, that's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party's no different, and you're supposed to pretend like there's anything redeemable about this system, and if you don't do that, somehow you're not an adult.
If you don't believe their kayfabe, if you don't buy into like the surface level politics that they are pushing, then yeah, they say you are a conspiracy theorist, you beyond the pale. But I'm like, like people. I called, and this is one reason my friend and Leftists is growing because people realize this, everything I was saying before the election. Like you have people like Voss that was yelling at me like, "Oh, we should vote for Biden because of the platform." Like, you actually believe he's gonna do any of his platform? Like, it's the year 2021, and you got people that still like follow politics at surface level, still believe people on their campaign promises. It literally never made any sense.
Well,
But go ahead.
well, I want to. I guess like a good kind of closing thing. I was listening to Richard Wolff, who you brought up earlier. I was actually listening to him earlier today, where he was addressing that question, like, could Biden be the FDR? And what he said about it was he's like, look, when you see those types of actions, it has little to do with the person themselves and pretty much everything to do with the environment around it. What he was saying was the movement around FDR was why we got a New Deal. It wasn't because of FDR himself. And that's 110% true. I mean, that's he's absolutely right. But my thing though is personality has something to do with it because FDR had the foresight to realize what needed to be done. Joe Biden doesn't have that. He just doesn't. You know who did have that? Bernie Sanders did. That's why Bernie Sanders would have been an FDR style presidency. He had the foresight. Now, even Bernie Sanders would only have been as effective as the movement behind him. But with someone as entrenched in neoliberalism as Joe Biden, I mean, I do think that with a big enough movement, he can be forced to do some stuff he doesn't want to do. I mean, we've already seen some of that at the micro level. I mean, I don't think he actually wanted to cancel the Keystone XL pipeline, but he had to, at least for the time being. So we're seeing like some things here and there because people are just so fed up and they're out in the streets. But he still doesn't have the foresight nor the will to do any type of actual systemic changes, and nobody with real power can necessarily force him to. So I do think like personality and just the type of leader you want to be does have something to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well said. My thing is, and you brought up a really good point. Like, even if Bernie won, it would have been a challenge. And I want to end it with this thought, and then I'll go on and get your information for our audience to follow you on. I want you guys to understand this. And when I was canvassing for Bernie, this is why I was telling people. Cause I want people to understand what the states was. Bernie Sanders was our only shot, like really fighting climate change on a national level. Because even if Bernie won, it still would have been an insanely hard fight. Like, we would have been in the street. You would have Bernie had to hold rallies in West Virginia against Joe Manchin like he said he would. Like, it would have took a massive effort. But now we have a guy who's still fracking. He funded the military, which is the largest polluter in the world. He's literally passing out drilling permits left and right. His administration is literally not even speaking about climate change like it's an existential threat. This is why we have to be unapologetically against the two-party divide. We call these people out and the fake, because there's no time for mealy mouth words like, "Oh yeah, I think Biden better than Trump." Though no, they are complicit with the death of our planet. Like, stop buying into their nonsense. So that's why I hope you guys kind of pick up in our conversation today. I appreciate you coming on, Ron. We can go all day. I still literally got like multiple stories we didn't even touch base on, but we definitely gotta make this a thing. I appreciate you coming back on.
Dude,
Where could
anytime,
they?
man. I love what y'all are doing. So I'm so, I'm really honored y'all included me, and yeah, anytime, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Like I said, we can do this all day, but where can they find you? YouTube. Where can they find you, Ron?
You can find me at Ron Placone on pretty much all the socials. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, but I don't really know what I'm doing. But Twitter's like my main one. So I'm at Ron Placone and youtube.com/Ron Placone. You can get my show, Get Your News On with Ron on YouTube, or you can get the audio podcast of it wherever you get podcasts. And ronplacone.com is my website, and hopefully going to be able to tour some later in the year. So
Looking
keep
forward
an
to
eye out
that.
for that.
Nice, nice. And I appreciate everyone for watching and for the support for Hampton Leftists. We got a lot of new subscribers the last week, mostly because your friend Jenny. So please hit the bell. We upload every day. We even had like this is a 2 video special take. If you miss, check out JB Font Show. He usually hosts that early on the day. He talked to my good friend Michael T. Avasa, the non-voting felon. They had a great conversation, and I also was excited because and a little salty because Jackie and RJ got a chance to talk to one of my heroes, Professor Wolf. That's a fantastic interview. Please check that out. Hopefully, maybe I get the next shot at him. But the point is, we upload every day. You have Nerdologist with Jackie and Meg tomorrow on Tuesday. I'll have one hell of panel of Black Leftists I got planned. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the show, please. We got a Patreon. As you see above, Patreon for Hampton Leftists. This is Nick, also on Social Cinema. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.